Hey, you and the gardening gloves.
Not sure which plants grow well in Calgary?
Need a little help preparing your yard for drought conditions?
Visit calgary.ca/yardsmart.
And learn how to create and maintain
A beautiful yard and garden that thrives in our unique climate.
planting drought-tolerant perennials, trees, shrubs, and native wildflowers will help you use less water.
Together we can make every drop count.
So dig in at calgary.ca/yardsmart. Welcome back to the Helpful Gardeners podcast. It is the May long weekend, and that means, well, maybe not for us, but for quite a few people, this is sort of like the planting weekend.
Yep.
This is when everybody has the time. Obviously, we still have to watch the weather, but
Yep.
for the most part, now is kind of the time where you can start to venture things outside.
And I'm confident.
Yeah, you're confident?
Keep the frost blankets handy. It's Calgary. Anything can happen, but eventually you got to take the jump.
Yeah.
Right. You got to take the plunge. And I've been looking at the long range. Nothing nefarious coming through. We all know that can change in a heartbeat. But if I wasn't so busy this weekend and this week, I would absolutely be putting plants out.
I love that.
And I already have. Like my hanging basket is living outside now.
Yeah.
My Christmas poinsettia has been outside a couple of times, which is still going strong.
Yeah, I
Thank
love
you
the
for that.
check-in. I love the check-in.
But yeah, it is time. I like that you said it's planting. Well, maybe not for us.
Yeah, I know, because this is our busiest weekend. Well, one of the busiest weekends of the year for greenhouses.
This is our Christmas.
It is our Super Bowl, is what I've been telling
there you go.
people. It's our Super Bowl. It's our time to shine. And so I thought it would be a really good opportunity to sit down and talk about planting, and specifically talking about 8 common planting mistakes, so that when you get out into the garden, you know, you can remember this podcast or listen to it while you're out in the garden, and then it might save you from a few of the mistakes. And it's just simple fixes, right? Yep. So let's start off with number 1, drainage holes. So starting right from the pottery, because drainage holes are so important, and it's to make sure that the water isn't sitting in the bottom.
Yep. Somebody falls in love with a pot, and I get that. I get that you see something and you go, oh, that's what I want in my garden or on my front stoop or whatever. And it doesn't have drainage holes. Oh. And then you go, oh, what can I do? And you go, well, I'll be very careful with my watering. Mm-hmm. Great. Mother Nature is not going to be careful when she rains.
Yep.
And then they go, well, can I put rock in it? And can I put this in it? And it's all of the bargaining that they do. If you find a pot you love, you can use big outdoor pots as cover pots.
Exactly.
But drainage, you're so right with that. It is a rookie mistake to plant directly.
So some of the things that you can do are, like you said, using it as a cover pot. So you can, I know downstairs we have some pre-made planters, and they have like the little pot inserts, and you can just pop them into a bigger pot. That can be an option for you. One of the things I want to also mention, I was downstairs talking to Marion, and she's been noticing some people coming in and asking if they should actually remove this grower's pot when they plant annuals. I didn't realize that. And I think it's just, growing up, like I was exposed. My mom always took off the pots, right?
Yep.
But it's interesting how, some people interpret as just planting it right in with the pot.
We can't use ourselves as the example of the lay person when we're talking about gardening.
Yeah.
We just can't, because we're too entrenched in the gardening world. I won't even use the peat moss pots to plant in. I remove those as well.
Oh, do you?
Yep. Yeah, if there is something surrounding my roots that can stop them from just exploding out, it's coming off. I want my roots, with the exception, I'll put this out, ball and burlap. You don't want to remove that because your root ball will literally crumble on you.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but we don't have burl and burlap here. I don't believe we do. I haven't seen them in a few years now. But yeah, that is definitely remove the grow pots. Great thing is though, you can always keep them and upcycle them for when you're doing your houseplants later.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And if you look on the bottom of the plant pot, at least for Calgary, I'm not sure what other jurisdictions are like across the country, but if you look at the bottom, you should see like a little triangle, and then you can recycle them in our Blue Bin program.
Yeah, upcycle. But again, the thing about that, look at the bottom. Yeah. Every single one of them has a drain hole.
Exactly.
The drain holes, and here's the other kicker is, we say get a cover pot, but not every insert fits in the pot that you want, and some of them are too small. And people are like, well, that doesn't really work. What can I do? So if you absolutely have to, that you cannot use a cover pot, or if it's not a fiberglass or a hard plastic where you can, easily put a hole in. You watched me cut holes into a fiberglass one.
Yeah.
If you cannot do it, you can use stone, but it is going to make it incredibly heavy.
That's, yeah.
So,
And that's another thing to keep in mind too.
Yep.
Hey, like on an offside, just where you're planting, plant it where you want it to be, because hauling a heavy pot across the garden is just not safe.
No, it's a bad idea for your back, for the pot, for the plants.
Yeah.
And I have done that enough times to testify to that. Now, if you have a pot, because we've talked about this, winter planters.
Yeah.
And you have a pot and it's going to live there forever, go ahead and put some stone in the bottom. A couple of other things, if stone is the way you want to go, buy it in the plastic bags, but don't remove it from the plastic bags.
Which is so funny because my instinct is to open the bag and to pour it in.
Yep.
But they're just serving a function purpose, not an aesthetic purpose.
Nope. So leave them in, they'll weigh it down. They won't sit tight because they'll mash up against each other, so it'll allow room for drainage.
Yeah.
So
it's brilliant.
Yeah, I've done that before. And then the other one I recommend is the insulation styrofoam.
Nice.
Not the fiberglass insulation. That's not going to do you any good. I'm talking the blue, hard, compressed styrofoam. Cut it into a ton of chunks. And the great thing about that, I'm not a huge fan of styrofoam. Environmentally, it is not wonderful. That's why I'm saying these are last resorts.
Yeah.
But the great thing is that it doesn't break down. So if you pick it out every year when you're dumping your plants into the compost, you can keep reusing it for years to come.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah. So
Love
that's
that.
it. But just try and buy drainage holes.
Yes, exactly.
Make your life easier.
I love how last weekend when we were doing the webinar and you found out that your pot didn't have drainage holes and you had taken the plastic off and everything, you'd hauled it upstairs and you're like, I'm at the point of no return here. And then you started using your pruners. And then you said,
You out me in front of everyone.
I outed you because I loved what you said. You said, if anybody used these pruners like this other than me, I'd be so upset. And I'm like, this is actually a good point. How do you create drainage holes? Like if you are super committed to the pot, is there like a safe way to create drainage holes?
Drill.
A drill. Okay.
Drill. And here's the thing. If you have a ceramic pot, you're in love with it, you want to use it, you can go to any of the hardware stores and they have ceramic drill bits. Be careful doing it.
Okay.
What I always like to do if I'm doing it outdoors is I put my pot on the grass and I drill down. I drill through. I don't flip the pot upside down and drill the other way.
Yeah.
I put it there, and then the moment I go through, I hit the grass. I'm not ruining my drill bit. I'll have to clean it, but I'm not ruining my drill bit, and I'm not putting extra pressure on something that isn't supported.
Yeah.
So I drill through onto the grass, and if ever you are putting in your own, always cut out.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of times we flip it over because it's easier and we cut in, but then you push everything in. So you're still not allowing 100% drainage. You want to funnel everything out. So I go from the inside out.
Very good tip.
Yeah,
Very
right?
good
You
tip.
can buy ceramic drill bits, so you can drill your own. You've got options, but no matter how you get there, drainage is imperative.
Perfect. Well, number 2, we'll just kind of go right through the planter experience. So
Yep.
let's talk about soil. Making the wrong soil choice for what you're growing. And
Yep.
what do we mean by that?
So it's two-pronged. If you're going into a container, you want to use a lightweight potting soil.
Okay.
You're putting it into a pot, use a potting soil. I'm not talking about a raised bed. I'm talking about like a pot, a container, a window box, hanging basket. Anytime you use a topsoil, a manure, a compost, it's going to be too heavy.
Yeah, like straight compost in
Yeah.
a planter will be very heavy, so root won't be able to expand.
Yep, it doesn't dry out quickly.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you have drain holes, it holds so much moisture. So you want a much lighter soil. Now, you can make your own. Absolutely, you can make your own. You can buy cocoa coir and worm castings, volcanic dust. You can blend your own. You can even add, if you're doing that, you can even add a little bit of compost to it. the premix are fine. Buy a bale of BX or some bags of potting soil or the herb and veg if you need organic.
Yeah.
There are tons of options. Gaia Green Living Soil is okay. But now, if you're planting in your garden, you don't want to use a light soil like that. You want to amend your soil using compost and manures and cocoa coir.
I like what you're saying, amending your soil in your garden beds, because that's exactly what it is. You're basically like injecting nutrients in it so that they'll actually grow your plants and your seeds.
And you know, and I'm glad you touched on that because you made me think of something else. I get asked this frequently. I have my planters from last year, right? So I'm not always the best example because I have the luxury of having absolutely everything I need at my fingertips when I need it.
True, yeah.
And I've done it for so long, I know what I need. I can take a quick look and be like, this is what I need, and I go home with it. So at the end of the year, I take my pots and I just pull the whole thing out into the compost, put the pots away. A lot of people don't. A lot of people dig out the flowers and they keep the soil. Now that soil or potting mix, growing medium, is good, but it's completely depleted. There's nothing good. Whatever fertilizer or worm castings or whatever was in there, the plants have depleted by growing, so you want to freshen it up.
Yeah.
Right? Just add some more organic stuff, add some fresh peat moss, worm castings, the volcanic mineral, lightweight amendment. And if anybody's looking for more information, we did a whole webinar on that.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So, and those webinars stay posted on our YouTube, don't they? Yeah.
Yep.
So if you go to our YouTube channel, you can learn all about the different amendments. But yeah, freshen the soil up a bit, and absolutely you can reuse the soil. I'm way too lazy to try and dig my plants out. I'm just like, get me the compost bin, flip it, next. Flip it.
Yeah.
But I know I have access to everything the next year. So.
I love that calls to so many different types of gardeners too, right?
Yep.
So again, gardening is a personal journey, right?
Absolutely. It's whatever works. And there is, the funny thing is, if somebody came up to me and they were like, oh, I'm going to dig out all of my garden soil and bring in all fresh loam and I'm going to do a blend, I'd be like, are you out of your mind? And then people are like, I keep some soil in my pots. I'm like, are you out of your mind?
I know.
Pick a lane, man.
I know. Do you leave your tools outside all winter?
Yeah.
Yes. No.
I am convinced. That is the number one reason why we sell so many pruners and so many pairs of gloves.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah, because people are done, they put them down, they wrap everything up, and they forget those two little items.
Yep.
And then they find them in the spring, and they are rusted, and the gloves are gross, and...
I imagine that some people probably have like 5 or 6 pruners in their yard. They just don't know where they are.
Yeah. My home pruners, nobody else is allowed to use them.
No?
Nobody. No.
Oh.
No, they are my pruners. Like, if Jenny and Harry, I'll buy them their own. I'll buy them 2 pairs. I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't touch mine.
Do they make left-handed pruners?
Yep.
Oh, they do?
Yep.
Do we have them?
The ones we carry are ambidextrous.
Oh, cool.
The ones I have are like a specialty one, and they have a rolling handle to stop you getting hand cramps if you're doing a lot of pruning. So if you use them, so the handle rolls, and it rolls to the left. And it stops my hand cramping. But if you use it left, it rolls to the right. But there's a stopper on it, and you'll break it.
Oh.
So I cannot let Jenny use them. And when I do, like if it's a 911 and I'm with her, I'm like, okay, can you use it right-handed? Or if not, just gentle snips.
Wait, Jenny's left-handed too?
Yeah, Jenny's a lefty.
I didn't know that.
I told you and Jenny are like long-lost siblings. Like,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Who else is left-handed? Let's find out.
yeah, Jenny's a lefty.
That's so cool.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about number 3, acclimatizing improperly. We had a whole episode, if you want to go back.
Yep.
What was that, last week, a couple weeks ago, where we were talking about
something like that.
acclimatizing
Yeah.
and how to do it properly, because there are a lot of things to have to consider. What are the impacts of acclimatizing improperly in the garden?
They get less as the season goes on.
True, yeah.
Okay, so once the plants are used to, it gets warm in the greenhouse and it's also very warm outside. So, it's 20 degrees outside and you buy your plants from here, you're good to put them outside. But if you're buying your plants early and you want to get a good start on them, get them used to being outside. Years ago, I got asked to help consult on a project they were doing, and they got 50 trees from a sister town in Canada. And they sent the trees, and the trees had been sent refrigerated, right? Refrigerated trucking. And the trees came, and we'd already decided where they were going to go, and we discussed it and the best areas. And then they were like, okay, we're going to plant these trees tomorrow. The trees had arrived, say, today, and they're like, we're planting tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you can't. And I was like, no, they're refrigerated. It's like 34 degrees in a Montreal summer.
Totally
like,
different.
You've got to climatize them.
Yeah.
Like, they need at least a week. And they were like, no, we don't have time. And I was like, they're going to die. You're going to shock them so terribly. Anyway, we had a relatively heavy debate about it, and I asked for my name to be taken off the project and walked away.
Yeah.
Because they weren't going to listen, and they planted them, and about 90% of them died.
No.
Yep. Yeah, now that is an extreme example,
Yeah.
but that's why we do it.
Okay.
That is why we do it, and it works the other way. If you've grown your seedlings inside your house, where it's nice and it's cool and it's temperature controlled and they've had the light and they're doing amazing, and you go to put them outside and it's 30 degrees, they're not going to like that. We always think climatization goes the other way. Now, it might be a little cool, I should get them used to the cooler temperatures, but it can go the hot way too. So always keep an eye on it and just spend that little bit of time moving them inside and out. It's a long season, and you're talking about a week, 10-day investment of putting them out in the morning, bringing them back in at night. If you have to go to work and you're not sure about what the temperature is going to get to or if it's going to rain, just leave them indoors. Better safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even I loved what you had said a while back now, where having things in planters makes it really easy to move them in and out wherever you need them to be. If there's a thunderstorm coming, or if you have, like you said, like say we get 30 degrees tomorrow and you've just planted and they're fragile, then you can move them inside really easily. So that's something to consider too.
And if anybody wants an example of climatization,
no.
No, here it is. Here's your example. Because I always like to make things relatable. Okay, so we're going to think about the spring and we're going to think about autumn. Okay, and we're going to think about ourselves. 10 degrees in the spring. Everybody is in slides, shorts, T-shirts. They're going, oh my God, this is beautiful. Oh my God, we should maybe go to the beach. 10 degrees in the fall and everybody's wearing their sweaters and their toques and they're like, cozy sweater weather. Gonna sit around the fire.
Yeah, totally.
So
we're confused.
It is 10 degrees, but after the summer, we're used to it being 30, 35 degrees, 10 feels cold.
Yeah.
We're used to minus 35, 10 feels warm. So that is the perfect example of climatization.
100%. Yep. I love that. Number 4, lifting plants by their stems. Ooh. I know. Did anybody else have a reaction? Like,
oh my God.
I know. So what do we mean by that? So let's take, for example, this beautiful geranium that we have on our table. What are the repercussions of lifting plants by their stems?
Really seriously damaging and or killing the plant. So you have a plant like this, and you've seen me do it countless times now. Squish the pot, lift it out properly. But I see people all the time hold the pot, and I can't bring myself to do it, just so you know. And they grab the plant, and they pull the plant, and they're like, and it's nil. Like, I mean, you just said that, and I had a visceral reaction.
100%. I did too, and I said it because if you do that, then you run the risk of really damaging your plant, and especially for something like an annual, like it's done.
I don't care if because sometimes you flip it upside down. I'm not going to make a huge mess because it's not a webinar; it's a podcast. But you flip it, and you go to take it off. You're being careful, but you break off a flower, or you snap a couple of leaves. All right, kind of sucks. Who cares?
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to put out more. But if I'm doing this and I grab it and I separate the stem of the plant from the soil, even when you lift it out, and I've done it, and I'll tell you when I've done it because it's something that I never do. It's when people have planted directly into a ceramic pot. Mm-hmm. And I have to go in with a knife and loosen the roots and try and get the plant out because they want to keep the pot so I can't break it. And then suddenly you feel that like pop. It's almost like a dislocation.
Yeah.
And you know the plant's finished.
It's done. There's no coming back from that.
Yeah.
And that goes for not only just annual flowers, but perennials, trees, shrubs.
Trees, okay, every pot. This is, I'm like, I'm really having to dial myself back here.
It's a tough one, right?
Yeah. It's like I feel like I'm doing like like an after school PSA. Like, okay, it's just a plant, Colin. Calm it down. But every pot, tree pots, everything comes with a lip. Look, look how easy that is to lift.
Yep.
And I see people grab the tree.
Totally. I've done it.
Yep. And now you're talking about a tree. Like if you took that tree, okay, and you cut it off at the soil, okay, weigh the tree and weigh the root ball and tell me which one weighs more.
Yeah.
The root ball every time.
100%.
You go to lift like that and the roots are heavy and you lift, that weight as it comes off the ground can drop and suddenly you feel the tree go.
Yeah.
And your tree's loose, you just killed your tree.
Yeah.
You just killed a tree.
And that's a little more expensive than an annual flower.
Yep.
And, it's hard, right? Because trees put off this tough exterior.
Yeah, and I don't mind this. I'll show you another technique. And sorry for anybody who's listening. This one is visual. I will walk through it, though. Sorry if my mic is getting muted, too, because I'm quite animated on this. Okay, so we're going to pretend that this is a tree.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got the lip.
Yeah.
Now, say you go to lift it and the tree is in your face and it's hard and it's heavy. You can always lift with one hand and support the stem with your other hand.
Yeah.
Because you're not taking weight, you're counterbalancing. That's okay to lift it like that. You don't have to lift it like that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, after all of that, I will say that I know there are going to be people who have listened to this podcast. I know there are professionals who will be like, well, that's how I've always done it, and there's never been a problem. That's fine. I have seen it happen.
Yeah.
I've seen, oh my God, one of the worst I saw. I genuinely thought the guy was going to get struck. And we were planting these monstrous blue spruce.
Yeah.
Okay, and blue spruce are not fun to plant. They're not. They're
prickly. They're prickly.
You've got to get in. You get. Plus, it's hot. It's middle of summer in Montreal, so you're wearing like a tank top on no shirt, and you're getting stabbed. It's just miserable. And we put the tree in the hole, and it was off. Okay, so to straighten that, you put your shovel or your pry bar on the root ball, you lift it, and then you backfill soil to straighten it. And one of the guys, again, I'm not going to name names, he went and he took the tree and he pulled the tree back on its root ball. And the tree was like this and it just went, Goop. The root ball didn't move.
Oh, no.
The root ball didn't move and he separated all of those roots. Now, he didn't snap the tree off. He wasn't that strong, but he popped it.
Yep.
And
you can't save that, hey?
No, you cannot. You cannot. We had to dig it out.
Ugh.
So all of that work to now dig it. Oh my God.
So no matter what, and it's the same thing with trees and shrubs, especially when you're going to remove the pot, it's the same principle.
Yep.
It's squishing the pot. I know some of the pots can be a little bit hard. I've seen you almost lay, if it's a type of tree or shrub that you can do this, lay it on its side and just kind of massage it a little bit, roll
lay it on the ground and push it. Use the ground as your counter. Absolutely.
Yeah. You're not going to hurt any root systems by just pushing on it.
And then just gently slip the pot off.
Yeah.
Roll the pot off. Absolutely. Yeah. Just don't yank the stem on any plant. And I've seen it happen. Like I said, there's lips to lift by. There's other techniques. You don't have to grab it by the stem and pull it out of the pot.
Okay, let's move on from this one. This is giving me too much of a reaction. Number 5, burying plants too deep.
I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before. I'm going to mention it now. Personal story. And I know I've mentioned it to you, but I'm going to give you update. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
I'm getting a live report here from Colin. I'll be so cool if we had that. But last year, I walked by somebody in my neighborhood.
Yes.
Planting shrubs, and they were planting them too deep.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if I should say something. Like, do I go across? Am I mansplaining? Am I interrupting them? Like, should I do it? Should I not? And I really wrestled with it. So many people are so keen to tell everybody that what they're doing is wrong. And so many people are not receptive to hearing things. So it's kind of like you don't know which approach to make.
Yeah.
That's how I'm prefacing this, because this is where my doubts came in. And I was watching a person gardening, and they were planting shrubs, and they were planting them too deep. I don't say anything. I take Jimmy to the park, and we're at the park for, 20 minutes, half an hour. And we come back, and they're finishing planting, and sure enough, those shrubs are maybe 2 inches, 3 inches too deep. Neither of them survived the winter.
Oh, see, that's so tough, because I see where you're coming from. It was a very difficult situation. I don't know. I think we should maybe put that to our audience today. If you were doing something like that, if you were planting a plant, would you be receptive to somebody coming up and offering you advice? If it meant that you could save an investment as expensive as a tree or a shrub.
I'm not going to come, I think I've made it clear. I'm not going to come and be like, you're planting that wrong, or you shouldn't use that plant.
Yeah.
I won't ever do that again. I will actually go and try and engage the person. Yeah. I feel very bad because I could have prevented that. Only you can prevent plants being planted.
But let's talk about why that's important.
Yes.
Because yes, it died, but how?
Suffocation.
Like suffocation of the stem?
Yeah. So a heck of a lot of gas exchange takes place at the crown of the plant and the soil. So where the plant comes out of the soil, that area there is an insane amount of gas exchange.
Well, there's a lot going on at the crown of the plant I didn't know about.
Oh, it's so whenever... Okay, pro tip. I'm giving this one away for free. The amount of times I have gone to garden centers, the plants could be 10 deep in a row, and people will move them aside to find the one with the biggest flower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could care less about the flower.
No, you find the one with the most buds, right?
Nope, could care less about that. I find the one with the strongest crown.
Well, how do you know it's a strong crown?
Make sure that there's multiple growth, make sure it's nice and thick, make sure it's not weak and flimsy and rocking on itself because it's been maybe dropped or damaged or hasn't grown properly. I find the one that is solid. Like you take it and you just give it a little wibble wobble and you go, oh, that's a rock. So the leaves might only be this big. The plant next to it, the leaves are this big. It's already got a flower on it.
Yeah.
But the crown is very wimpy and doesn't look very strong. Not interested.
What? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, look at the crown of the plant. Yeah. That is going to tell you more about the health of the plant than the flower. And I've seen people one time in Montreal, I had to go pick out some shrubs. We were doing a landscape, and I went to this garden center. I'll give them a shout out, Sheridan. They were awesome. They're in Quebec, Ontario too, I believe. Anyway, I went to this nursery, big nursery, kind of like us, and they had tons of shrubs. So sure enough, I'm in there, picking my way through, inspecting every one, going, oh yeah, this one is fantastic. And I'm walking back out, and it's hot, and I've got shrubs all around me. I'm getting scratched, but I'm picking them out. And I go in, and I'm picking a shrub, and I turn around, and there's a woman shopping off my cart.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, excuse me, those are my shrubs. And I very clearly don't work there. Like, I'm not, they have like our aprons, they have like a proper shirt and logo. And I'm very clearly not an employee. And she looked at me, and I'm like 20 shrubs in, so I can't get out fast. And she was like, I know, but you've got by far the healthiest, best looking ones. And I'm like, and she was like, I just need 2. And I'm like, all right, take any of them.
You're very nice.
I'll find 2 more. So I went and found 2 more. But yeah, look for the crown. That's where it's happening. And if you look at the bottom of this geranium, you'll see the crown, and it's a little bit brown, and then it's green above it.
Yeah.
And people look and they go, oh, I'm going to bury that deeper because it'll support the plant more. I'm going to support it.
Yeah.
And I've seen people bury leaves. Have you ever seen this? The bottom leaves are like this when you buy the plant, and then you plant it, and the leaves are like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way too much soil around it.
Yeah.
It can't breathe. There's no gas exchange. And I've seen people plant trees too deep. I've shown up.
Yeah, because I remember you were saying to do the volcano method, not the mountain method when you're doing trees.
No.
The other way around.
Yeah.
The valley method? I totally listen to you, I swear.
Yeah. So the volcano, okay, is when you mound it up like a mountain and the plant is in the middle. Okay. The crater. Yeah, is where it tapers down to the plant.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you want a crater, not a volcano. But I understand why people think volcano, because they're hollow.
Yeah, because I just assumed because there's
filled
stuff
with
inside.
liquid hot magma.
Magma.
Isn't it only magma underground, though? Isn't it lava when it comes out?
Oh, shoot. I don't know.
I think it's magma when it's underground. So what is it when it's in the mountain? Because it's not above ground yet. It's still in the mountain. Is it like when does magma become lava and lava magma? Can we not just call it the same thing?
I think I'm still at the crater method. I think you lost me.
Yeah, you know what? Let's stay in our lane. Back to plants.
But yes, you're right. So it's the same with trees. Yep. It's the same with perennials. It's making sure that the gas exchange can still happen at the crown of the plant.
So the rule of thumb is when you take your plant out of the pot using the correct mechanism to take it out of the pot, the level of soil in this pot should be level with the soil I'm planting it in.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, there are some exceptions. Roses don't mind being a little deeper. Rhododendrons and azaleas don't mind being a little higher.
Why, though? Why?
Just the way the plant has evolved to survive. But both of those plants I just mentioned will do absolutely fantastic planted at level.
Okay.
So
can I throw a plot twist?
Oh, please
okay,
do.
So last year,
dun, dun, dun.
I know, you told me that you could potentially plant tomatoes deeper by pulling off their bottom leaves. Yep. So tell me a little bit about that. What makes a tomato different?
So one of the things with a tomato is if you pull off the leaves, you can pull as many leaves off as you want. Leave 2 on the top. I've seen people do it. Remember that woman I talked about in Montreal who grew the beans?
Yeah.
And she was, okay. She would grow her tomatoes and they would be, 8 inches high.
Yeah.
She would pull off every single leaf and sink them in the ground. So the top leaves were the only ones left and they were about 1 inch off the ground.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the tomato is unique for that in that it doesn't suffocate. And all of those little white hairs, those trichomes, not all of them, but any one of them, there's no rhyme or reason to it, will adapt and basically become roots.
So cool.
And it re-roots itself. But what you will do is you will stunt the living hell out of it.
Okay.
So if I take a tomato, 2 tomatoes, identical plants being grown the same, put one in at soil level and leave it like that, it's going to start growing, it's going to flower, it's going to do everything. I pull all the leaves off and sink it deep, it's going to sit there for about a week or 2 weeks. Because it's like, oh, I desperately need to put out roots because if there's roots, now the crown has changed. Mm-hmm. So the crown is there. I bury it this deep. Now all those turn into roots. Now my crown is here.
Yeah.
So it's adaptable. A tree isn't going to do that. A geranium isn't going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can I ask, like in a tomato, where does the gas exchange happen? Is it more so in the leaves at that point?
Yeah, more so in the leaves. It's happening right where you've buried it. So there's still a gas exchange. It's still happening underground, but it's not as volatile. If you want to stagger your tomato growth, how many times does this happen? You plant your tomato plants and you're super excited. You get no tomatoes and then you get a month of nothing but tomatoes and you can't eat any more tomatoes.
Yeah.
So you're planting 2, pull the leaves off, sink 1 deep, plant the other one regular.
Yeah, just try it out.
And you'll get 2 separate harvest times.
Yeah. I see. Very smart.
Yep. So you can play with it, but rule of thumb, if you're not sure, plant at the correct depth. That'll do you right.
Number 6.
Number 6. Moving right along.
Not enough water for new plantings. So I know that water is it's a subject for many reasons. You know, when we're talking about houseplants, too much water, too little water, you have to be somewhere in the middle or else their plant is going to suffer. Right now, we're really heavy in talking about water because we're trying to conserve water, especially here in Alberta. So let's talk about the correct way to water new plantings versus established plantings.
New plantings, water. Water, 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 water. Especially trees, shrubs, and perennials. They're going to be in the garden bed basically for the first little while. So again, we're not talking about houseplants here. For the first little while, you don't want them drying out.
Okay.
So when a soil dries out, it triggers the plant to go look for its own water, right? There's no water accessible. It has to go, just like us. Okay, you go turn on the tap, you have water. You turn on the tap, there's no water.
Yeah.
You walk to another tap.
Yes.
There's no water, you walk to another tap. There's no water, you go to the store and buy water.
Yeah.
You are searching for water. Okay, and if you can't find it, you're going to be in trouble, just like a plant. So if the plant has no water, its roots are going to look for water. That's why once it's established, we don't want to overwater. But when you first plant something, you shock it. So I take this plant, it's growing in its pot, in its little environment, temperature controlled, with all of its buddies, and it's like, I love my life. And then I take it and I go, ah, on the roots, and then I yank it out, and then I jam it in cold soil, and then I plant it, and it's 30 degrees, and I'm like, Godspeed, little buddy.
Oh, when you put it like that sounds horrifying.
That's what we've just done to it.
Yeah.
We've just shocked the living hell out of it. It's a living plant.
Yeah.
We don't like change and we can rationalize it. Plants, they have roots. They don't like being moved. And now we've just smooshed it all and changed everything. It can't look for water because right now it's just like, what happens when we get shocked? Normally, the biggest sign that somebody's in shock is they just sit there like they're catatonic.
Yeah.
If somebody's in shock, what's one of the things they say? Give them water to sip on.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody's in shock, get them a bottle of water. Sip on that. And it starts bringing them out of shock. Same with the plant.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be looking for water right now. It doesn't need to have any more stress. Depending on weather conditions, etc., the first week to 2 weeks, I'm watering every day. The 2 weeks after that, I'm tapering to every 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
And then after that, it gets watered as needed.
Okay. And as needed means if you start to see the leaves droop, if it's looking a little sad.
So with a houseplant, you overwater it, you can normally tell pretty quick you overwatered it, and then you're in trouble. An outdoor plant, and we're not talking container, let's talk trees and perennials now.
Yeah.
You can't really overwater them per se because there's so much natural drainage.
Yeah.
So you can put a soaker hose on, turn it on full, and leave it 24/7. Okay, eventually you're going to get surface water, but the vast majority is going to be draining away. You're also going to have a colossal bill from NMAX, and it's really not going to help with our water-wise system, but you can do it. But what ends up happening is you have the most shallow root system. So here's a great example, and I learned this when I was landscaping. So you know in-ground irrigation systems? Anytime we had to do gardening on somebody who had in-ground irrigation, the transplanting was 10 times easier.
Oh.
Because all the root systems are shallow.
Oh.
They've never had to look for water.
Yeah.
Every day that system comes on and it goes... And the plant goes, thank you so much. The roots aren't looking. The roots are just sitting there like, well, we got what we need.
They've never had adversity.
Exactly. Anybody who waters by hand, life happens. We forget. We get busy. We go, I'll get to it tomorrow. Now, the tree is wilting. It's not dead. It's just like, hey, I'm really thirsty. And we go, I have to do that tomorrow. And we don't do it tomorrow either because, life happens. And then the next day, we're like, oh my God, that is now my number one priority. And we go out and water. Well, that tree has looked for it. It gets a drink and it goes, okay, I need to find water. And the roots go deeper again. So the longer it has built up that, getting used to not being watered, after a couple of years, that's why you don't water your big trees. They found their own water.
That's so cool.
Yeah, they're happy. They're good. Perennials, grasses, they don't need water.
Yeah.
Remember when we were talking to the prairie gardeners?
Yep.
And they were saying about how intricate the root system was of grasses. They'll find their own water. They'll hold water. They'll share the water with the other perennials.
Yeah.
That's how they work.
Yeah, perennial grasses. Like if you have turf lawn, I mean, that's still relatively immature, right? Because it's literally growing from seed.
Yeah. Do you want to know what I heard?
What?
It's so freaking cool. Our friend Kyle. You've met Kyle, right? Yeah, from Eagle Lake. Give them a shout out. So when we look at Kentucky bluegrass and turf, and we go, it's got a very shallow root system, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's just grown wrong. So what ends up happening is you get a new house, right? Somebody builds your house and they're driving machines on it and trucks are coming and guys are walking on it. And then they're done and then they throw down 5 or 6 inches of topsoil and put the lawn on it.
Okay.
Now the lawn can live on that, but it's not healthy because the roots only go that deep. Then they hit that hard pack that trucks have driven on and everything else. And they stop and they go, well, I guess that's as far as I go. Kyle was saying, if you amend that soil like we would a flower bed and it's, 6-7 feet deep and properly turned in a healthy soil and you put sod on it, the roots will go that deep.
Holy, okay.
Yeah, the roots, they get huge. They can just survive with a really shallow root system.
Yeah.
So the deeper you make it, the better it is.
So Could you then take out all of your lawn to produce, like, and basically start from scratch?
You could, but
I mean, it's a lot of work.
A lot of work and a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not done. It's not. I'm not blaming anybody here. The lawn, it's not that they're doing a disservice. The lawns live.
Yeah.
Like, look how many people have a healthy lawn in front of their home.
Course.
It's not that the lawn is going to die. It's just that it could be a lot better.
Yes.
It could be a lot better, but yeah, it's pretty cool. When Cal told me that, I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Let's move on to the thing that always goes hand in hand with water, and that's fertilizer. And this is something that we have talked about a lot, but heading into planting season, it's going to be important again. And that is how much fertilizer to use. Too much fertilizer can be bad news for plants. So what can happen to your plants if you use too much?
So fertilizer burn will just kill your plants. The other thing is, and this is what gets people, they over-fertilize, and the plants do amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, they're rocketing up, they're growing, they look great, and everybody's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the plant withers and dies by July.
Yeah.
First things first, I will talk about this every time we talk about fertilizer. Do not get hung up on the numbers. What are the numbers, Brandy?
No problem, Ken. This has become such a life changer. It's NPK.
Yeah.
It's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. See?
There you go.
See?
Bam! Like,
This...
out of the park.
I'm learning.
Don't get hung up on the numbers. Really don't. And if you're not sure, buy an all-purpose.
Yeah.
Just buy the one that says all-purpose. Normally on the front of the box, it'll have a tomato, a flower, a shrub, a tree. It's all-purpose. You can use that on your lawn. You want to get more specific, you can buy tree and tomato and flowering, and we have hydrangea fertilizers and perennial and vine fertilizers. You can get as advanced as you want. Just follow the manufacturer's guidelines.
Yeah.
Just don't. If you are going to deviate, and this is the one that gets people, fertilizer is done so that they have figured out the maximum you can use to keep your plant healthy without harming it. Mm-hmm. Fertilizer is fantastic. You know me, I love my fertilizer. I've got tons of different varieties. I've got it in my office. I've got fertilizers for everything. I absolutely believe in fertilizer, but I also dial my fertilizer back.
Yes.
It says 10 milliliters per liter. I'm using 7 milliliters per liter. I'm just cutting about a third off, and the plants will be fine. Don't over-fertilize. Don't overdo it. If it says do it once a week, do it once a week. If it says do it once every 2 weeks, do it once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Don't deviate. They have done the math for you. That's why I always say use that. People are like, well, can't I fertilize with like eggshells and coffee grounds? Do whatever you want, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's your garden.
Yeah, again, gardening is a personal journey.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you're not harming your plant. And
yeah, and here's the thing is that if somebody asks me, it's not that I don't know that they can't be added to a garden. Of course they can, and of course there's a benefit, but I don't know what it's measured. I don't know what the no problem Ken is in coffee grounds.
Yeah, true.
I have no idea. How can I possibly know what the percentage is of your coffee grounds? Plus, how many are you putting down?
Yeah.
Are you putting down one little Keurig pot? Are you putting down a whole basket of coffee? So I am not saying that they don't have a place and a purpose, but they're almost immeasurable.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the numbers are.
So just before we move on, because this is also to do with planting, can you use an all-purpose right off the bat, or should you look into a transplant fertilizer?
I'll be honest, depends what I'm doing.
Okay.
If I'm taking this gently out of the pot and I'm putting it in a pot of beautiful potting soil and everything else, I'm going straight to my fertilizer.
Okay.
If I'm taking an existing perennial and I'm shocking the hell out of it and I'm cutting roots and I'm lifting it and it's hot outside and I'm sticking it somewhere else, I'm going to give it a transplant because I really want the roots to establish. So something where, yeah, I'm shocking it, but it's not really damaged. It's just being a prima donna. It's like, no, I'm not in my little pot anymore. Then it's going to get fertilizer and water. But if I take a perennial or a tree or a shrub and I really have to pull it and damage roots, transplanter.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice and easy to follow. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to sun requirements, because not enough sunlight, too much sunlight shade in a sunny area.
Yep.
So really understanding what you can plant, how many hours of sunlight your spot will get. We have on this table here, we have a geranium, and then we also have one of your favorites, New Guinea Impatiens.
When you brought that up, I've been looking at it a few times. I'm like, I love the shape and the burgundy and the...
Yeah, exactly. But these both require very different amounts of sunlight.
Yep. The one thing that does not change, you can plant monoculture, polyculture, I don't really care. I prefer polyculture, I prefer diversity, but again, if it makes you happy, I don't really care. But you can't change exposure settings.
No, not at all. I mean, it can be very overwhelming when you're going into the greenhouse and you're not sure, well, what is full sun? What is part shade? How many hours of sunlight? A good start would be to say, well, what side does your garden face? And then you can come to Golden Acre and you can say, hey, I have a south facing garden. So what can I grow? And then from that, we can kind of typically, barring any massive trees that might be changing exposure, that's always something to keep in mind.
You get a better guess. You're in the right ballpark.
Exactly. So typically full sun is 6+ hours of sunlight. And that can be mostly in like south-facing yards. So if you have that, you can grow dang near everything. But we do have those more shadier annuals like the New Guinea Impatiens. And what you can actually do is look at the actual tag and it will show you the sun exposure needed for that plant.
So normally, I haven't seen that one, but normally it's a white sun for full sun.
Yeah.
A white with a line through it, and half of it's white and half of it's black for part shade.
Yeah.
And then it's a black sun for shade.
Yes. Well, this one has a cloud on it, but
okay, there you go. I said typically, I didn't see that one.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that's exactly it. So this one will say, part sun. So make sure that it is not in 6+ hours of sunlight.
Yeah, normally New Guinea Impatiens, they can take dense shade. I've put them in pretty heavy shade. They don't really max out. They will bloom. They will do okay. They just don't really get very big and bushy.
Yeah.
But I've absolutely used them there because I do love them. Anywhere between 3 to 6 hours of sun. Oh my God, they're outstanding.
Yeah. And here's the cool thing is that Golden Acre, if you go into the perennials department, we actually have things very separate.
Yeah.
So we actually have shade cloth over top of the shady one. So if you're looking for a stilby.
And it's called Shady Lane.
Exactly. It's called Shady Lane. I love that so much.
You helped us come up with all those names.
I just love it. But here's something that I've always wondered is, when the annuals department, the New Guinea Impatiens are sitting out in the middle of the aisle. They don't have shade cloth. So is that just because they're rarely here for very long?
That, and also our Lexan is 60/40.
What's a Lexan?
Oh, what? The Lexan is the plastic greenhouse.
Oh.
Yeah, the plastic windows or whatever you want to call it. What's a Lexan?
Is that a car?
The new Lexan A4.
Okay, so having them in a greenhouse like ours is actually protecting them a little bit from the sun.
So it offers, I believe, 40% shade.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, well that answers that myth.
But the reason it feels so hot in here is because there's no wind. So that's the that's why it must be brighter and hotter and sunnier. No, it's because there's no wind blowing through, which you have outside, but there's actually less sun coming through. That's why you can be out in the greenhouse for a couple of hours at this time of year with no SPF and you're not getting a burn.
Yeah, I was going to say, none of the team members back there ever have these wicked tans from working in the greenhouse.
Because we cut the UV.
Cool.
For plant health and for worker safety.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and that's why there's enough sun for the sun lovers and there's enough shade for the shade lovers. Some of the other ones, they do go under a little bit of cover. Perennials tend to be on the shelf a bit longer. Like you said, annuals, we're moving through them a truck every 2 days.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is a higher turnover, but yeah, that's one of the reasons why.
Okay. I have a bonus one because I didn't think about this until Nick came in and started talking to us about tomatoes.
Yeah.
And I think this is one that we have to bring up in Nick's honor. A common planting mistake is not planning ahead. Okay, backstory. Nick comes in here and he's like, Colin, I can't fit a tomato cage on my tomato anymore. What do I do?
Yep.
What do you do? It's too big. What do you do now?
Okay, so you got a couple of choices. I mean, so in the case of Nick, he just planted yesterday, just lift your tomato.
Okay.
Just lift it and replant it.
Okay.
Put the cage on. But you're right. Just plan the job forward.
Yeah.
How many times do people come in and they forgot their peony ring?
Yeah.
And they don't remember until their peony is huge and it's falling over, and now they're trying to put a ring on it. And, a wise philosopher once said, exactly, if you like it, you should have put a ring on it. I believe that was Beyonce Cleese. Was that Beyonce?
Well, yes, it was Beyonce. Good job, Colin.
If you like it, you should put a ring on it. I don't know how the song goes, but
but you're right. We do have little graphics back there being like, "Don't forget your peony ring. Don't forget your tomato ring."
And be prepared. Think about it. And look forward. I plant my tomato, then I put my ring on it.
Yeah. See,
okay.
and it looks so, I must admit, it looks a little weird because they're so tiny.
Yeah.
But it'll grow, give it, a couple weeks and it'll start growing into it. And then you're going to be so thankful that you got it.
Yeah. And if your tomato is bushy and you plant it, you go, well, how do I get my ring on it? Just bunch it up, hold it in one hand, put the ring on, hold it in this hand, move that hand up, let the ring fall through. You may knock a couple of leaves off.
Yeah.
Again, if you think you're going to break them, cut them off. A clean cut heals better than a rip. Okay? And get that cage on it. And if you really cannot, if you've really messed up, just lift it. It's a day old. It hasn't rooted. I promise you it hasn't rooted in a day.
And talking about roots too, if you wait until it's more established, you run the risk of snapping a root down below the soil.
Yeah, I've seen people drive tomatoes, and
there's that sound again.
Yeah, they drive them. So you know how most tomato cages come down to a point like that?
Yeah.
Always bend one or two, or all three is kind of weird, because if you bend all three legs and you try and push it down, it kind of smooshes a bit. But if you just bend a couple away, then you can actually kind of get around the root ball instead of driving into the root ball. Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
And that wraps us up for this week. 8 or 9 little common planting mistakes while you're out this May long weekend or next weekend or a couple weekends from now and you're out there planting, and just common things that you can easily avoid to make sure that you are that much more successful in your gardening season, especially here in Canada.
I wonder how many people are like, I could have used this information last week.
Oh, I know. I know a couple people that did plant already, and I was like, darn it.
Yeah, oops.
Well, you know what? Hopefully this inspires them to plant more.
Exactly. And you know what? Maybe they made a couple of mistakes. Maybe they learned themselves. Maybe this will help them not make those mistakes next year.
Exactly. I'm going to put all of the information that we talked about today, including that episode on fertilizer, over on show notes at goldenacre.ca/podcast. You'll see the show notes down at the bottom. We are on Spotify and YouTube now. We've gone video. So if you haven't seen us yet, go over there and check us out. We also have our question of the week and our polls over on Spotify. So lots of ways to engage with us. You can reach out on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can send us an email, info@goldenacre.ca, and just put podcast somewhere in the subject line so that we'll see it. Even come and join us on our webinar spring series.
Yep.
We're doing them every Saturday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we've got one this Saturday on.
Yeah.
The long weekend.
Yep. So, that would have been yesterday. So we do have the encore performance over on YouTube. So if you want to see us talk more about May long weekend planting, check out our webinar, which was yesterday, over on our YouTube channel. And then we have webinars going until the end of June, just talking about we're going to be talking about gardening with kids.
Yeah, that's the best.
I think that's so, gardening with kids and pets, I think too, because it's very interesting. And we're going to be talking about,
we've got organic gardening.
Yeah. So lots of fun topics coming up for webinars, for podcasts. So we hope that you'll join us next weekend.
Well, we hope to join them too.
Yeah, we'll join you in the garden. That's creepy. Okay, bye. We'll talk to you next weekend.
Bye, everyone.